How do you know what level of responsibility you should take in relationships?
Okay, so this question will go back to the question that we answered before, where the first thing that you need to do is you need to check in with yourself to see where you're coming from. And the most powerful point to operate from in any relationship is to be fully responsible for what happens, in the sense of you recognizing that you've created the person in front of you and you've created the environment and the situation showing up in the way that it shows up. Now, that doesn't mean that you put up with negative behaviour or things in life that you don't particularly feel are in line with your highest good. And so the first point is to recognise that you have created the scenario, and then you can make a choice of how you want to respond, and that you're going to either respond from a place of non-judgment and being fair and open and authentic in your communication or in your actions, or not. And so blaming another person for the circumstances in your life is pointless when you are consciously moving towards recognizing that you create your own reality and that you have the power to choose a reality that is a platform for you to be fully self-expressed and happy in your world. So, you know, you accept responsibility for the fact that you've created the scenario. Then you accept responsibility for how you bring yourself to the relationship. And if the person is behaving in a way that doesn't really serve you, then you make a request that they stop. And if they don't do that, then you accept responsibility that you can change your life and you move on. Or you tell them that you're not willing to put up with it and they either change or, you know, it's not going to work. So we're not suggesting that you put down an ultimatum and want to control someone's behaviour. You need to do it in a way that you point out why it's not working. And you need to be responsible for the fact that you've created the situation in the first place. Now, I know I'm repeating myself, but sometimes it's difficult to do this without putting it in a context. So, are you okay if I tune into you?
Yeah, please do.
All right, so the first thing that I pick up here is that in your relationship with your husband, there are times that you get very frustrated with him because you feel like he's not paying attention. Would that be true?
Yes.
And that he's on a very bad day with you, that you feel like he's being dismissive.
Yes.
And so then you go, okay, well, who's responsible for this? Shouldn't he be more responsible in bringing himself to the relationship? Or is this my responsibility because I'm behaving in a certain way that he's responding to me like that? Is that what goes through your head? Right, so here it is. First thing is you ask yourself, is this a pattern? Is this been going on for quite some time? And if the answer is yes, then you go, okay, I have a belief here that I need to look at around how people respond to me in my relationships. Do I have a belief that people ignore me? Do I have a belief that I'm not important? Do I have a belief that I'm not acknowledged in my relationships? Do I have that belief? And if you want to know, you just have to look at your life, because your life is nothing more than a reflection of your beliefs. That's the place to start. If you realise that it's a pattern, then you need to be responsible here and change the way that you see yourself on a deeper level. And then tell yourself, okay, I'm now willing to let go of that, and I'm going to open up to being fully acknowledged in the space, in a state of humility. And then the next time your partner does that, rather than you getting angry, frustrated, withholding, stamping your feet, going, fine, if you're going to be like that with me, then I'm not going to pay attention to you either, which is like two children on a playground. And it's certainly ego versus ego, and it's certainly defend and attack. Do you see all of that? And we do understand this doesn't happen with you a lot, but when it comes up, it's very upsetting for you. that you go, okay, I need to bring myself to this differently now, for sure. So we would go to the person and say, I've noticed that this happens a lot, and I'm willing to be responsible for the fact that obviously I've created it somewhere. I need to know if you're willing to change the dynamic with me, because it's creating a lot of pain, and when it happens, I don't feel close to you, and what I really want is I just want to be more connected to you. Is that something that inspires you? Now, your partner might say, well, of course I want to be closer to you. And then you would say, well, you know, what is going on for you that you shut down like that and you dismiss me? And that person might not want to say anything because they're afraid that if they're really honest with you, that you're going to yell at them. That would be the case with you, for sure. And they have a belief that, well, there's no point me telling you, because if I do, you're just going to yell at me and it's going to get worse. So for your partner, we would suggest that they're just straight about it. But, you know, if they're not where you are right now, then you can set the platform of trust up for them and say, look, you know, I'm going to really encourage you to be honest and open with me, and you have my word that I'm just going to listen. You know, and I'm not going to get angry. I'm just going to be with what you have to say so we can shift this now. Are you okay with that? And if you sense that they're still, you know, doing that, then say, it's okay, you have my word. And then if they still refuse because they're afraid, you can say, look, unless you're willing to be brave enough to be straight with me and you trust that I'm not going to yell at you, this is going to keep happening and I really want to be closer to you now. And then they'll probably sheepishly go, okay. And then they'll tell you, and then of course we would suggest that you're responsible and you stand by your word, and rather than getting hooked, you listen to what they have to say. And then you talk about it till you get to a point where you make an agreement with one another that you're fully present in the relationship at certain times when it's important. So you personally have this thing where you do this fluctuating dance between making your partner wrong and then making yourself wrong, and then making your partner wrong and then making yourself wrong. And that's why the question has come up around whose responsibility is it? So it's both people's responsibility, but you need to accept responsibility first. So does that make sense to you?
Yes, it does. Thank you.